So I don't know, how many of you wish this were an Agile conference? How many of you are Agile people, huh? I mean, what in the hell does that mean? I'm not really sure. So yeah, I really don't go to Agile conferences, but a lot of my business is in what people would recognize as the Agile space. I'm a Scrum person, and I do training and speaking and consulting kind of in that arena. And so instead of this talk being about, kind of the hardcore technology you can look up in a book that you can buy for $20 at the local bookstore and then give a talk about it in front of a conference, I thought I'd talk about something that first of all, you're not going to find in the books. Second of all, you're not going to find many conference speakers talking about it because it's so politically incorrect. And third, which is a little bit of a downer, because a lot of the industry is based on so much hype, because people are selling stuff. They're selling their language, or they're selling their expertise, or they're selling this method, or they're selling Agile, or whatever. And so, of course, they don't want to tell you this stuff sucks. But I think, for Romania to become a software powerhouse, you can't just fall into the fads and to the ruts. And one of the dangers of a community like this, or of a conference like this, is that you get stuck in a rut and everything becomes an issue of fashion. We're doing this because everyone else is doing it. We're doing it because we heard a talk about it on the conference. We're doing this because we see it a lot in the advertisements, or see it discussed a lot on LinkedIn. And I mean, consultants are always, polishing their rhetoric. And so in the beginning, good development was about tools. And then guess what? In about 2001, the industry discovered that this really isn't about tools. The tools really don't help. And this is what all the research shows. Software development is fundamentally about people. It's fundamentally about communication. It's fundamentally about domain expertise and understanding. Tools don't make someone a better programmer any more than a great pen makes someone a better poet. And so the important issues, the ones that are going to distinguish about whether Romania thrives or just becomes the next India, have to do with these much deeper issues. And so I'm here to talk to you about a deeper issue. And I think this is more true keynote material, talking about programming language features. If you want to go to a tutorial on that or a workshop on that, I think that's a more suitable forum for things like that. But what I want to do, in the sense of a true keynote, a keynote is supposed to set the tone for the rest of the talks in the conference. But I think all the talks here are keynotes. So there's a little bit different perspective here. And what I want to do is kind of set the tone, for the rest of your career, for what you're going to do next when you leave here. And the way I want to start this is, the Agile people, the Agile people said, this isn't about tools, and they had something called the Agile Manifesto that says, here's what it is about. And we'll show the Agile Manifesto here in a few minutes. But they couldn't sell it, and you can't sell an Agile Manifesto. And so now one of the popular things is, to be Agile, you need an Agile mindset. What in the hell does that mean? So for those of you who want to leave early, the punchline is it's bullshit. But if you want to hang around and hear what mindset is really about, and maybe a few surprises at the end. So there is hope, and this hope starts with you as an individual, and about your mindset and the true sense of the word, about how you conduct yourself in business and how you interact with your team, and hopefully this will go to being a whole team. So why is this not moving now? There we go. So Agile, it's buzzword city. And thank goodness so far in most of the talks, this has not been a buzzword morning. And so I really appreciated a lot of the talks that were given here this morning. But the Agile people are always talking about Agile mindset. there's a new, or maybe this should have a trademark on it. Fast Agile, trademark. Modern Agile, trademark. The heart of Agile. So everyone is trying to carve out this piece of Agile and tell you they have the corner on being Agile. And Agile is hot. I mean, I go into a company and I say, you know, what are you hiring me for? What problem are you solving? And they say, well, to go Agile. And I say, no, that's a solution. What problem are you solving? And they don't know. Because it's all about fashion. Hey, you know, the other CEO who I play golf with is Agile, so I figured we need to be Agile too. Oh, we need an Agile mindset. Can you help us get an Agile mindset? Do you want to buy a pound of mindset? And this has kind of become the most recent fad of what Agile is about. So the original guys, which were, you know, 27 old men. By the way, I was invited to this, but I was in the hospital having surgery, so I couldn't go. But in 2001, they got together, and this is the shared opinion of 27 guys, and by the way, they were all guys, with no research substantiation, who said, well, you know, we're kind of looking around, we're seeing that people are doing things in a new way, which is true. I mean, starting in the mid-1980s with the advent and rise of personal computers, the style of software development fundamentally changed from the old centralized days or mainframe ways. And so we see a lot more of these individuals interacting. And here, I mean, they know it's not about tools. Working software and focusing on that rather than having all of these design documents. Collaborating with customers only over contract negotiation and responding to change over following a plan. Now, they don't tell you what to do, and they say, okay, there's value in both ends of this, but we're finding that we prefer to be at the left end. So when I say Agile, you know, when I teach or consult, I mean, this is what I mean. I do not mean fast. The words fast and speed don't appear anywhere here. Agile does not mean fast. Agile does not mean laid-back California guitar-playing programming. So it doesn't just mean, okay, you know, we're going to be hippies and do, you know, cowboy programming and, oh, wow, this is all cool, smoke a little dope, write some code, and everything will be fine. So, I mean, Agile is a discipline. And, in fact, it's pretty hard to do. The research shows, in fact, it's more expensive than conventional development. Ooh, there's a surprise. But it has some benefits, like it delivers the right thing earlier. So I'm an Agile advocate for this definition of Agile, but probably not in the way that most of the talking heads are teaching this to you. So, you know, we start with this shared opinion. And by the way, another thing that's kind of popular that consultants are selling these days is innovation. And finally, I get the boss to tell me, what problem are you solving? And they'll say, well, okay, we need new products. We need innovation, and so we're going to Agile. No. There's nothing here about innovation. So I want to start right off the bat. So if you're doing Agile to get innovation, I mean, you're barking up the wrong tree. Innovation is important. I mean, I work with people on innovation as well. But it's a whole separate set of approaches to the individuals and to the organizations, and a whole bunch of different growth approaches and a lot of different tools. I think innovation rocks, and there's a lot of great ways to support this, but it really doesn't have much to do with Agile. But people really confuse these. And of course, Agile means good. And, you know, you go looking on the web for, you know, what does Agile mean? And what does Agile mean here in Romania? So this is from Porsche, right here in Cluj, an article they published, saying, oh yeah, we use Agile methods wherever possible. What problem are you solving? Well, to use Agile methods wherever possible. So vehicles cannot be brought to a market and so on. The industry is always about moving from one finished state to the next. Oh, yeah? I didn't notice that. In the end, all these different challenges mean that fast and flexible work is required. Okay, maybe. I don't know if that has to do with Agile. I don't believe this in the first place, because no one in software meets their schedules, and so I'm really dubious about fast being really a need. It's just kind of a wish. Targets are often set at short notice and change quickly. Oh, so instead of doing planning, we're just going to set targets at short notice. And when I say the software is developed in a results-driven process, let's all wave the flag and say, well, we're results-driven. Are you results-driven? What was the return on investment for your last sprint? There's an outcome. There's a result. How many people use your software? There's a result. What percentage of the features in your software are never or rarely used? There's a result. Worldwide average is about 65%. But you're driven by outcomes, you're driven by results, and you don't even know these things? No, I don't think we're a results-driven industry. We're driven by revenues. We keep generating more features because people will pay for them, and then they just don't use them. Now, I wish we were results-driven. That's pretty cool. But I mean, kind of one of the points of this is that Agile has just become a synonym for good. And to the people who want to impress other people, it's become a synonym for fast. And for people like you who attend a conference, it becomes a synonym for test-driven development. Oh yeah, we do a daily scrum, and therefore we're Agile, right? So there's this really shallow understanding of something which could be very beneficial. And what I want to do is kind of tear this apart, and I want to tear this apart from the perspective of Agile mindset. So actually this started being a different talk, and it's evolved. And so this talk has a lot of different combinations of stuff in it, but they all kind of do belong together. But what I was going to start to do is just kind of, critique this whole notion of Agile mindset. But this kind of went in a different direction, but I'm going to start here anyhow. So I went looking on the web. What do the talking heads say that Agile mindset is? So I found a bunch of definitions. One of them was from RallyDev, and it included use our tools. So I decided I wasn't going to use that definition. And then I found this one, which is from Forbes magazine, kind of a business magazine. I thought, well, okay, I certainly don't agree with them, but if we're going to look for an authoritative source for what Agile mindset is, this is probably a pretty good source. And some of the other sources I found said very, very much the same thing. So practitioners are said to have an Agile mindset when they're preoccupied, ooh, big word, and sometimes obsessed, ooh, bigger word, with innovating, oh no, they got this confused already, and delivering steadily more customer value. Is there any method which doesn't claim to deliver steadily more customer value? Or does Agile have a monopoly on delivering more customer value? What, the other methods are delivering less value? That's what they were designed for? With getting work done in small, self-organizing teams. Okay, I'll buy that. And with collaborating together in an interactive network, whatever the hell that means. I guess it means they're all on Zoom, sitting at home. Such organizations have been shown to have the capacity to adapt rapidly to a quickly shifting marketplace. Bullshit. I mean, no more than anything else. I mean, show me the data. Show me the research results. I don't see this in my clients. Well, for people where we define Agile is, we say we're doing Agile. So, yeah, I mean, there's this whole thing about Agile mindset. And I think this is totally displaced. So this is kind of, hey, if we all just do mindfulness, and by the way, I'm a big fan of mindfulness. If you haven't read the book, read the book. It's a fun book to read. There's a group right outside here, kind of right when you come in the entrance, who's really into this stuff. and some of the more psychological and sociological aspects of a development culture. But what this come to is Agile coaches are out, selling, hey, if you just buy my Agile mindset, if you just go into mindfulness, if you just change your mind and stop being controlling and start thinking good Zen Buddhist thoughts and things like this, then everything else will come fine. And oh, by the way, I want to sell you my tools too. Agile is nothing in software is just about thinking. It's about doing. So Agile plays out in doing work. Agile is a change in behavior. And what we're going to see later is this all ties back to the concept of learning. And in some senses, this is a talk about learning. You should be coming to conferences to learn. And you're saying, okay, I've already learned 5 things. Well, no, you haven't learned anything at this conference. Knowledge happens here. Learning happens here. You're not going to have a chance to exhibit the learning until you go back home and put this stuff to practice. Now, I maybe have some knowledge, but the learning is in the action, in the change of behavior. Look it up. Learning is defined as a change in behavior, especially in psychology, and especially in Skinner-esque psychology. So, Agile isn't about selling a pound of mindset. It's about how are we going to change behavior, and that behavior is going to help our mind identify patterns that will lead to learning, to more permanent changes in behavior. So learning is a systemic, more permanent change in behavior than just, okay, well, I'm just going to try this one time. I learned this trick at a conference. Okay, there, I show you I've learned it. I can pass the test. I can answer the questions. I can do this once. No, that isn't learning. That's just knowledge. To survive, an organization always has to learn. And in a changing market and changing environment, which is what Agile supposedly is all about, we need to be learning all the time. So what drives behavior? Well, the laws of physics drive behavior. You can't violate the laws of physics. One of the biggest things that drives behavior in any culture, development culture or team, is myths. So myths are just, the things that we believe that come out of stories, that come out of history. This is all about beliefs. So, wait a minute, you say. I thought you were going to deconstruct mindset. Yeah, mindset really is about beliefs in the mind. And that isn't at all what this definition says from Forbes magazine. It's talking about, okay, let's make the product ever richer, ever release, and blah, blah, blah. So mindset is about beliefs rather than just reasoned progress. And a lot of Agile is of course based on doing things. We're going to try something, and okay, it fails. We try again. We make it a little better, and we keep working on this thing on one track until we've refined it. So Agile's about refinement, right? And this is what you find yourself doing in an Agile process. In every sprint, refining the result a little bit more. So mindset is about beliefs that go beyond just this reasoned progress that we associate with the learning of Agile. I've just been reading this book called Mindset by Carol Dweck, and I think she really invented the term. This book is, I don't know when this first came out, I think 10 years ago or so. I should have looked that up. And now everyone is camped, they love this concept of mindset. And now, we have an Agile mindset. We have a this mindset. We have a that mindset. No, words mean things. And what I want to do is hang my hat on this definition of mindset. It's very, very simple. And then to show you how silly the concept of Agile mindset is up against that, and how this notion of real mindset actually can be valuable, but it probably doesn't have much to do with Agile. So you can change mindset with persistent practice in the face of ongoing failure. So, I think it was Mies van der Rohe in architecture who said, form follows function. No. Who's the Chicago architect? He was the form follows function. Architecture people. Who was this guy? Did a lot of the architecture in Chicago. Can't remember. Form follows function. Not right. He was out in the suburbs of Chicago. Sullivan? I'll think of his name. Anyhow, modern people say form follows failure. Because the way you learn is by failing and then trying again, and eventually you're going to discover what works. So this is empirical. It's not just someone standing in front of you and giving a philosophy lecture. You have to viscerally experience it. So this is how we learn. Form follows failure. So you can change mindset with persistent trying and failing again and again, just like Thomas Edison did with the light bulb. You know, he tried, I don't know how many hundreds of different materials, and he had a team working with him. It wasn't that he was in his ivory tower doing this alone, but he was running these experiments to see, you know, what kind of filaments would work for a light bulb, and he kept coming back again and again and again and again. To change, you need what Dweck calls a growth mindset, and she contrasts that with a fixed mindset. And it's a wonderful book because it contrasts some people who have fixed mindsets, like John McEnroe. John McEnroe, you know, a sports player, thought he was excellent, thought he was great. He was not interested in learning. He was not interested in changing technique. And when things started to fail, he wouldn't say, okay, I need to look inside myself and improve my technique. He always blamed the referee or the weather or the breakfast he had that morning. Whereas great players, great sports people like Michael Jordan, I mean, if they lost a tournament, they'd kind of hang their head and they'd go home and they'd be shooting baskets for a couple of hours and do that every day, saying, all right, well, I didn't do as well as I could have. I need to practice. They grow, they learn, they change behavior. So this is the fundamental definition of mindset. And you either have a growth mindset where you're learning, or you have this fixed mindset where you believe you're the top of your game. And it doesn't have to be sports. Another guy who had fixed mindset was Lee Iacocca. And he thought he was God's gift to Ford Motors. And he came in there and he established the Mustang program, which was a fantastic success back in the 1960s. But he ended up being a one-trick pony. And, I mean, soon Ford discovered he was an asshole, and they kicked him out. He was furious. He went over to Chrysler, and he became the CEO of Chrysler, and he almost destroyed them. Because he thought he was right, and he was unwilling to learn in a new context, because he had this fixed mindset. And there's lots and lots and lots of cases she goes into in this book. Now, if you look at what mindset means from the person who defined the term, the person who wrote the book, and compare that to this thing from Forbes magazine, I mean, there's a really fundamental mismatch here. And so this term of agile mindset is utter crap. Okay? Mindset is about beliefs. Agile is about freeing ourselves from beliefs and instead changing behavior in an empirical way. They're almost exactly the opposite. So, Agile says, don't analyze the problem, right? The XP people will tell you, do the simplest thing that could possibly work, or defer decisions to the last responsible moment. And the Agile Manifesto is about doing. Individuals interacting, collaborating with customers, making working software, doing. There is no thinking in Agile. So is this a thinking conference or a doing conference? I don't see much thinking. See a hell of a lot of doing. I mean, people are writing code up here in real time. and even talking at the same time, right? Pretty accomplished. But it's not thinking, it's not reasoning, it's not analyzing. To be a leader in software requires expertise, thought, and deep understanding of systems. It can't be the doing alone. Now, the doing can be a path to learning. So there's kind of a yin and a yang here. So I'm not saying, stop doing. And not saying, try to just get the mindset and everything's going to be well. So growth mindset is about learning. The agile mindset is about delivering. If you want to deliver the same thing again and again and again, then agile mindset is fine. Now, you might think I'm exaggerating, but when I come to the scary part of this talk here, 3 days after Halloween, you're going to see what I mean. That if you're doing agile, kind of, by the convention agile, what you're doing is you're doing the same thing again and again and again. And you're doing local optimizations. And you're not thinking broadly. You're just kind of blindly plowing ahead, one baby step at a time. And you end up in local optima. Thinking and planning can allow you to get much more powerful results, but Agile works against that. So let me talk about a couple of things here. Number one, if there is an Agile mindset, it's probably wrong. So, if I asked you took a survey, what do you mean by Agile? Okay, there are these Agile myths. These things that, we read on LinkedIn, that we've been taught, that we read in the books, and particularly that we pick up from conferences. If I think, I'm older than I look, and I think about what really fueled a lot of the changes in behavior that we're seeing in contemporary software, it wasn't books. The books are full of crap. And it wasn't universities. The university professors just don't get out much. They don't understand reality. So they can tell you all the fine theory, but in terms of actually making a change in behavior, they're not effective. Where did this change come from? Conferences. So conferences were kind of the great organ that was a catalyst for this change in behavior that today we call Agile. And that's why I'm so passionate here in saying that you as the folk who, give direction to these organizers about what kind of folks we should have here, are in a position to take control of the future of Romanian software by going beyond just the routine doing and getting more into a thinking posture and a leadership posture. But what do we believe in Agile? Okay, we don't know how to design complex systems up front. Architecture must emerge. Let's kill all the architects. Got two architecture friends over here. We should focus on what the customer wants. Customer collaboration over contract negotiation, right? We do things one small step at a time to achieve an optimum. And because we're always inspecting and adapting, we have a guaranteed best result. And of course, everyone says Agile is fast, and blah, blah, blah. Well, okay, let's talk about architecture emerging. How many of you know who Uncle Bob is? Robert Cecil Martin. Anyone seen the famous debate between me and Bob about trust-driven development? He lost. You can find it on YouTube. No, it's really entertaining. Bob is a really good friend. We just love to fight, for the sake of performance art and entertainment, and it also helps sharpen us. But he's a good guy. So, Bob is no longer saying this, but back in 2009, he said, and he's one of the big TDD guys. He says, okay, you don't have any upfront architecture. We don't care about domain expertise. The architecture emerges by using test-driven development. And you just do the simplest thing that could possibly work, and eventually the architecture emerges. That's what he's saying today. Well, here's what he said, back in 2009. One of the more insidious and persistent myths of Agile development is that upfront architecture and design are bad, that you should never spend time upfront making architectural decisions. Then instead, you should evolve your architecture and design from nothing, one test case at a time. Pardon me, but that's horseshit. So, I mean, the people who now, for the sake of fashion, are out selling things like TDD, I don't think they actually believe what they say. They know better. But, hey, you come to a conference like this, you want people to come to your booth. My guess is that if, my good colleagues over here, set up a booth for architecture and I set up a booth for TDD, I'm going to have a longer line than you are. Just because fashion has changed. It has nothing to do with knowledge. It has nothing to do with the evidence. Okay, how about planning? Upfront planning is useless, right? We're going to do the simplest thing that could possibly work, and we're going to defer decisions to the last responsible moment. How many of you have heard this term, defer decisions to the last responsible moment, from extreme programming? And it's maybe a good idea if you know when the last responsible moment is. But in a complex adaptive system, you don't know ahead of time when that moment is going to come. How can you defer a decision to the last responsible moment when you don't know when it's going to be? This is horseshit as well. I mean, it's logical nonsense, but I mean, the consultants are out selling this because they know that you'll listen to it. Jeff Sutherland, the inventor of Scrum, said, "I would never develop any significant software system without a lightweight, upfront set of architecture." Now, he doesn't mean, months and months of architecture. He's like, spend a sprint and put together an architecture with input from domain experts. Glenn Ballard, who runs the Lean Institute out of California, says that iteration in designing adds value. That is, I'm building prototypes and doing thought experiments and thinking about what the alternatives are, it's almost free because the artifacts are very lightweight. They're pieces of paper, they're PowerPoint. Okay, they're not code. Code is not soft. Software is one of the most ineptly named artifacts in human history. Software is one of the hardest things we've got. So, iteration or rework in implementation, that is he calls it in making, creates waste, which the Japanese call muda. And the Japanese know this. We'll come back to this. Okay, so planning is important. The Agile people are wrong about this. Let's do what the end users want. Just go to the end user, they will write a user story. I, as a user, would like the system to do this so that whatever, right? Just, be a translator, what the users tell us they want. Well, Steve Jobs said, it's really hard to design products by focus groups. A lot of times, people don't know what they want until you show it to them. Henry Ford said, if I'd asked people what they wanted, they would have said faster horses. Phil Lieben of Evernote, CEO of Evernote, customer feedback is great for telling you what you did wrong. It's terrible at telling you what you should do next. Eric Ries, author of Lean Startup, said, we really did have customers in those early days, but we emphatically did not do what they said. We took their input as just one source of information. And in fact, we were more likely just to run experiments on them and on our product than to cater to their whims. So end user engagement, customer engagement is important, but it's to understand their pain. So when I taught a course here, was last summer, I had a student in my class named Kobato-san, and his father was CEO and founder of a company called Denso. Denso was one of the major suppliers to Toyota. And his son kind of took over the reins of his father. But his father was CEO of Denso, and he would come down to the factory floor and stand about this far from the person operating the machine and just stand there and watch them. And then to go up and ask questions. And then you say, can you teach me how to do this? No reports coming up from management. The real product, the real context, the real environment. Genchi, Genba, Genbutsu. So, looking at the problem and understanding this, you can now formulate a solution. As an outsider, you're in a much better position to formulate a solution than they are. So, how about incremental progress? So in Agile, we have some algorithm we need to implement, and okay, we implement it, and it gives us a 25% speed up. Okay, great. This is good. Maybe we can do even better. Let's iterate, we'll get another 5% speed up to get 25%. There's a better way. What if I think about 3 alternative algorithms? And I tell the team, go off and build all 3 in parallel. And let's try them. So algorithm A gives me 20% speed up, B 10% worse, and algorithm C is an 80% speed up. Well, I know right away I can get rid of algorithm B. And probably can get rid of algorithm A, but maybe I have another iteration. And now I have algorithm C, and that I can take forward. Now, if you take this home to your managers and say we should do this, your managers are going to say, we don't have enough people to run all this in parallel. So another way of doing this is to just take this parallelization and serialize it. So you do algorithm A, and you maybe don't implement the whole thing. Maybe you implement 20% of it, just enough to learn. And same for algorithm B, and same for algorithm C. And now you have clear data that will tell you which one you should choose and elaborate into an implementation. But of course, your manager won't let you do this. Because they say, you've made this investment in algorithm A, given that we spent this money, we should spend more money on that rather than throwing it away. This is the sunk cost fallacy. So to your managers, this is going to seem stupid. But we're going to see in a little while, this is the right thing to do. Another thing that Agile believes is fail fast. Aha. One that's right. Let's build on that. So that leads to the second part of the talk, is that the right mindset is what Carol Dweck calls a growth mindset rather than a fixed mindset. So if I pull from these quotes I found on the web about what Agile mindset is, always about moving from one finished state to the other, always getting more value, always increasing the value. When preoccupied with innovating and delivering steadily more customer value. This is Agile mindset. How do I know? I looked it up. What's growth mindset? Try something, implement it part way, and drop it. Try something radically different, implement it part way, and drop it. Try something else radically different. This is called set-based design. I have a set of alternatives, and I evaluate all of them in parallel. The more different things you evaluate, the broader the spaces you're going to cover, and the more chance you have to stumble over something that's going to be useful. So growth mindset is based on the premise that excellence is far less sensitive to individuals and talent than to trial and practice. And advances sometimes come totally by accident. All these things were invented by accident. Okay? Discovering the Big Bang, penicillin, Coca-Cola, the vacuum tube, the forest tube, Band-Aids, wireless LAN, GPS, microwave. It's not that someone was experimenting and trying to solve that problem and iterating on it. Just by accident, these things happen to work. And so Agile tends to believe that humans are in control, and by having control and iterating and being disciplined, we can get the right answer. This is poppycock. In a complex environment, nature is in charge, and it's not nice to fool Mother Nature. So it's about learning. Learning is this change in behavior. It's about changing the assumptions I have about my myths. A changing in thinking is inadequate. If I have a goal like a sprint goal in Scrum or something like that, it promotes local optimization. I'm going to head toward that goal. I'm going to climb this mountain, and I'm going to start walking up the mountain. And how do I optimize? Well, what's the next step that's going to be the shortest step to the top? It may be if I walked 100 meters back and took another path, I could get there in 1/10 of the time. But because I'm led by that goal, like in Agile, I get local optimization. It may add more value to start over than to keep iterating and keep being agile. All of this comes down to individual decisions. I, as an individual, have to face failure and say, all right, I'm going to keep going. This works fine as you're an individual. The problem with being on a team is that you can hide there. So John McEnroe said, he's the bad boy of tennis, right? Always blaming it on the referee or the weather or something. He says if you're not at your peak, you can hide it much easier in a team sport. Darn, I wish tennis were a team sport. Then my inadequacies wouldn't be visible. Wonderful to be on a Scrum team. No one's going to notice that you suck. All right? You got to take responsibility of your life. And when something fails, don't blame it on something. Keep moving forward. Keep trying. But not just moving forward, but going over here and trying something else. Don't let success validate your identity. Don't let success validate your talent. Now I'm going to say something radical. Why do you have your job? You enjoy your work? Or is it because you're building a great product? Well, hopefully a little of both. But in the end, if you build a product and don't enjoy your work, life has not been worth living. If you enjoy your work and this time you don't deliver the right product, well, you can fix that. You can try another product or another version of that product. This is about enjoying the journey. This is about enjoying learning. It's not about focused on KPIs or, delivering the highest return on investment or something like this. This is about who you are. That's why you're at this conference. Not to increase quality by 10%, but to make yourself a better human being by orders of magnitude. Enjoy the journey. Jackie Joyner-Kersee, great runner, said, "For me, the joy of athletics has never resided in winning. I derive just as much happiness from the process as from the results. I don't mind losing as long as I see improvement or I feel I've done as well as I possibly could. If I lose, I just go back to the track and work some more." Is your development like this, or if a product fails, do you move on to another product or another company? This is about persistence. This is about yourself and bettering yourself. Practice should be fun. Work should be fun. And on your gravestone, it's not going to say, he was instrumental or she was instrumental in delivering release 31 of this product. It's going to say, this was a kind human being. What do you want on your gravestone? Not every release needs to be a success, but every step as a professional should be about learning. So learning mindsets will operate in the context of some product vision rather than the fixed goal or some local optimum. Consider set-based design. Consider throwing your code away. I know a guy named Dave Thomas. Every third release, they throw away all of their source code and start from scratch. That's Agile. Explicitly value learning. How do you value the learning that you get out of development? That's the number one output of a Scrum sprint. That's the whole reason for Scrum. It came from the work of Takeuchi Nanaka, who made it as an innovation framework. It's not about product, it's about learning. End users? Well, the proof is in the tasting, not in the menu. We can conquer complexity. A few bytes at a time, rather than one byte at a time, moving into a local optimum. enjoy the journey. This is what it's about. Any questions?